So how does a 90-year-old man convince a car dealership to pick him up to help him buy a vehicle and then write him a purchase order for over $100,000 with no ID, no money, and then drive him to a location other than where they picked him up that was over 120 miles away? Is that absurd to you as it is to me? Because I don't get it. It doesn't add up in my mind. Why would any business want to extend themselves in such a way like that with all the red flags? At some point, wouldn't you step back and say, well, maybe we should figure out what's going on here before we involve ourselves anymore? So stay tuned. We're going to jump into the rest of it. 6 years ago, my mother died, and that led to Dad losing his license, unable to take care of himself, and then living with me. And those of you with elderly adult parents understand what it's like to deal with your parents as they lose their ability to do the things they've been doing all their life, and what a hard change it is for them. So I'm trying to keep dignity with this and not make a mockery of my father, but just to show you some of the absurdity and things that can potentially happen. Dad called a car dealership and was able to convince them to come pick him up from my home. I wasn't home at the time. And drive him to their car dealership, where they wrote him up a purchase order for over $100,000 for a Cadillac Escalade. And mind you, at this time he pretty much reveals, hey, I don't have money right now, and I don't have any idea, I don't have anything. And yet it goes even deeper than that. At his request, they then drive him to the town he used to live in, which is another 2 hours away from the car dealership. And mind you, that's not the location they picked him up from. And drop him off in this town. And he's dropped off. He's dropped off at a house of a woman that was friends with my mom. She didn't know Dad very well, but she knew enough that he was my mom's husband. And he went there unannounced, so she was startled. She called the cops. Cops called me. And I don't know if they thought I would just come pick him up or whatever, but I don't have any rights to him in that regard. So I'm like, I don't know what I can do. And so then they dealt with the situation on their own. The lady gave my dad a few dollars, I guess, and then they got him transportation to a hotel in town. You know, in today's age, you can't even rent a motel room without securing it with a credit card. And then, plus, there wasn't enough money to get a room anyways. So as a result then, Dad started digging around the trash at the hotel, pulling out expired room keys, and then trying to use them to break into a motel room, which led to the second police call. Police show up at the hotel, talking to my dad, and then they call me again, and this time it's 2 a.m. in the morning. And the police explained to me what's going on. I'm like, as we talked earlier, I'm over 2 hours away, and now it's 2 a.m., and I don't think I can just shoot out of bed and get down there, and it'll be hours. I says, isn't he considered like a vulnerable adult or something? He doesn't have shelter, he doesn't have any money, he doesn't have any means to take care of himself. Can't you admit him to the hospital overnight or something like that? And he goes to explain. He says, well, in the summer months, you know, we look at it like this. Drug addicts and stuff like that, they spend the night outside overnight and they survive. So we don't really look at the summer months as being a danger to anybody as far as risk of any risk to them with no shelter. And I says, okay, but this is a man approaching 90 years old. Isn't that weigh on that at all? And he just kept reinforcing his position. I says, okay, so what would you do? And he keeps kind of rambling a little bit. And I says, no. Man to man. I said, it's 2 a.m. in the morning. I really don't have anybody else to talk to right now. And you're on the phone with me. If you were in this situation, what would you do? He says, you could pay for a room. And then you know for sure he has shelter for the night. I says, you know what? That's a perfect idea. So I called the hotel, pay for a room. Dad gets a room for the night. And mind you, at this time, Dad has no idea I have any involvement with this. He just thinks he's out in the world doing this thing. And so the next morning, he goes to the bank, and he tries to withdraw enough money to pay for this Cadillac, which he didn't have sufficient funds for that much, and withdraws some money, gets a ride back to my place on an Uber for over $300. And my day was destroyed because I was on the phone multiple times dealing with this, and it was just a huge ball of stress. Some of you that are caregivers will understand these situations you get involved with and how taxing it is on you as a person, the weight of it. So I didn't sleep, and at that time I had a landscaping business and my son was working for me. So we just drove to the job site and I let him work, and I kind of crashed in the truck all day trying to sleep and recover and dealing with phone calls. And on our way home, me and my son are talking. I'm like, what's the chances that Dad's just in the house in his bedroom doing his thing and acting like, I should say acting, or just behaving in his normal way, like no big deal? Because in my dad's world, where his head's at, he has no understanding that anything he did was of danger or risk to him or the gravity of it, and because that's where he's at now mentally. We get home, enter the house, and Dad comes up and venting his frustration because, can you believe this? Can you believe that? And I can't even this, and I can't even that. And not directing any blame at me, but more like how the system's messed up and how I can't even function in the world. And, and I never set him straight on anything like what I was doing, my involvement behind the scenes or the police and all that stuff. And just, he's at a point where explaining that doesn't really accomplish anything. So why pick a fight, I guess, is my point. But anyways, yeah, it just blows my mind that a business, and it's not to blame them for this situation, but that aspect of it still just blows my mind that you as a business would pick up, an elderly person from one location, drop them off at another one, but even that, taking somebody 120 miles away and dropping them off, and then writing them a purchase order when they don't even have all the paperwork and information. It just, I've owned multiple businesses, and there's enough red flags there where I'd be like, maybe I should call the police. Maybe I should take a step back and let them own more of this on their own and figure it out, because me getting more involved at this point ties me into it. So as limiting your risk and liability of the situation, taking a step back and like, I don't know if I want to be involved with this. Now I'm transporting somebody around who doesn't have ID, doesn't have any money, and I'm driving them around. That just seems weird. Maybe I should call the police, or maybe I should, you know what I mean? That just blows my mind. Like I said, it's not to shift blame to anybody, but as a business owner, that just blows my mind. But anyways, so that's one of many things that have happened in this journey with my father. Oh my gosh. Hope you guys are doing well. God bless.